What's up guys, and welcome back to yet another Pokemon Sun and Moon video, and today we are again talking about the new trial captain Ilima and what it might mean for the rest of the trials and how many trials we might get, on each island and such, and talk a bit more about that as we go. You'll see as we go. So of course we have Ilima. Here is a screenshot of them. I'm really not sure at the moment whether it's a boy or a girl, or even in between, so I'm not too bothered. Ilima, of course, you can see this is the clearest screenshot I could find for the specific thing I want to look at, and that is the charm attached to the I think it's a ponytail at least. It's not really an earring, it's more a ponytail charm. And you can see here it's similar to the other charms that the other trial captains have. If I give you a nice selection of them, obviously we've had 4 trial captains so far: Kiawe, Lana, I can't remember the other ones, Sophocles, and then the Mallow as well. You can see their sort of pendants or charms, whatever you can see, are a flower, basically 4-leaf clover, with one leaf filled in with the colour of the type they are strong with, they're used basically, so fire, electric, grass, water, etc. And of course you can see Ilima's hair is coloured in with sort of a pale white colour, almost like a quartzy colour, sort of similar opal, something like that, so sort of white / cream, because of course they specialise in the normal type. As we know, they are on Melemele Island, very likely at least. There's a trainer school there, and they have graduated from the trainer school, so it makes a lot of sense that they would be there, and normally the trainer school is normal type based and such. So the question is, what's about, what is the charm all about? Now, while we talk about this, I'm going to show you the other charm we've actually seen on the player's bag with traders and such, and you can see the charm here shows 4 triangles set inside this charm, and I'm assuming it's a replacement for the badge case in these games. So we have the 4 colours of the 4 triangles, which are yellow, red, pink and purple, which represent the 4 colours of the Alola region islands. So Melemele is obviously represented by yellow, Akala is represented by pink, red represents the largest island because that's what Hawaii's colour is, the Hawaii island, that's what I mean, in real life, and purple is represented by the last island because, again, that island in real life in Hawaii is the Purple Island, so it makes a lot of sense there. And my assumption would be you get this charm given to you at the start of the game, either by Kukui or Hala or someone similar to that, and as you defeat the 4 kahunas, you get a triangle charm bit to place into the slots. That's my assumption at least, or it could just be a charm you get given, but it would make sense that there's a charm that you fill in. I don't think in any of the trailers we've seen it not be filled in at all, fully, because I'm assuming they've simply recorded the footage with all the badges, all the everything completed. They've basically hacked in. Otherwise, we could probably go through the trailers. That's what I'm saying here. The trailers, and say, oh well, this the purple one is missing here, and you have all other 3, which means purple line is the last one you get to, and we could probably plot out the order in some in the game events could actually go through. But it's not the case. But here we are. Regardless of that, we have this charm which denotes which islands you have beaten, basically, and that got me thinking maybe as well as that there are a charm for each island set, because obviously you go to, for example, we're going to use Akala here, you go to Akala and you get this charm that the 4 original trial captains have, and you fill this in with red, yellow, blue, green when you arrive there, and then obviously that's full, and then you go and battle Olivia, who is obviously the kahuna of Akala Island, and you get the pink triangle to put into the slots, so you've got something to represent the fact that you've defeated the trial captains, and then something to represent you've defeated the kahunas. That was my thought originally. And it would make sense, because of course that's just, I guess, how it would work. But I then had a thought, okay, but then we see this one here with Ilima has pretty much exactly the same clover pattern, and one of the leaves filled in with white, representing the normal type. So that would mean you'd have to have one of these clovers for each island. So obviously Akala Island, you'd have the red, blue, yellow and green clover. And then on the other 3 islands there would also be not necessarily clovers, but you can see at least for Melemele with Ilima, again there's 4 leaves on that clover, so that would indicate that if we were following that logic, there would be 4 trial captains on Melemele Island. And to me, I can't see that happening. It's too small of an island, it's too early, sort of in your quest, I suppose. And we have seen ourselves battle against, Olivia only has about level, I feel like 20 Pokemon, so it's not like we're spending ages on Melemele Island. It's the equivalent of doing sort of, trial captains or trials aren't necessarily gyms, but it's the equivalent of doing 4 gyms-ish in terms of plotline advancement, and I just can't see that happening on Melemele. Yes, okay, maybe the island looks small to us, but when we go to it in game, it's actually much larger, and there's much more stuff around the other half of the island. But I just can't see it happening. And also saying, if we say there's going to be 4 trials per island, and obviously if we look at Melemele and compare it to the largest island, that's much bigger than Melemele. So of course, if Melemele has 4 trials, why would the largest island not have more than 4 anyway? But the idea with 4 per island gives you 16 different types. 16 different types, and we also know the 4 kahunas also specialise in types. Hala seems to specialise in a fighting type, Olivia seems to specialise in rock typing, so that's 16 types from the 16 trials, plus 4 from the kahunas, so it's usually 20 types, which is more than the types we have, which means that obviously some types would be repeated, but isn't exactly how they usually go along with it. So that's what makes me think that instead of these charms being, yes, okay, you fill out this charm for Carla, you fill out this charm for Melemele, the charms simply represent the 4 leaves on the clover, represent the 4 islands of the Alola region, with each one being filled out, showing that this was a charm for Kiawe, this was a charm for Sophocles. It fills out like that. It's not exactly something you have to complete like I originally thought. It's more of this just denotes which gym or which badge it is, I suppose you could say, which trial it is for. So that's my thought. In terms of how many trials we might get overall, of course we know there's 4 on Akala, there's at least 1 on Melemele. I would say there's probably not going to be more than 1, since I'm pretty sure we battle Hala at a fairly low level before our starters actually evolved the first time. So you can't really put too much on the first island. Maybe it would be my thought, so maybe just a single trial on the first island would make sense. But if we assume each kahuna is going to specialise in a single type, so that's 4 types there. We already have 4 from Akala, that's 8 types, which leave 10 over. We already had normal, so that means we have 9 types left. And if you look at the largest island, as well as the 2 red and purple island, I'll call it, easy enough to say that, I'm sure we could get 9 more trials across those 2 islands. The purple island is about the same size as Akala, maybe a bit smaller in terms of actually what's on it, because there's a lot of stuff on Akala Island, whereas the purple island seems to be very sparsely populated. So maybe say only 3 trials there, but then you could still fit 6 on the largest red island. There's 1, 2, 3, 4-ish towns there, so that's plenty there, and obviously don't have to necessarily be in towns. So I could see it happening that you could have 1 trial / kahuna per type. The other thing they could say is well, we have Team Skull, which is sort of a dark and poison, because we assume they're going to be using dark and poison types mainly, because that's what the previous Ilima teams have had. So of course you can take those off. So we've had these 4 kahunas, which are obviously 2 of them are rock and fighting. We have the 4 on Akala Islands for water, fire, grass and electric. We have normal as well. We have dark and poison, so up to 11 types now, and that leaves only 7 types left over. The decorated across the 2 leftover islands, purple and red, so maybe 2 on the purple island and then 5 more on red, or 3 and 4 sort of thing, to spread out, which means you have basically a challenge for every single type, because you can imagine we have obviously Plumeria as well as Guzma. So Plumeria maybe specialises in dark types and Guzma specialises in poison types, and it might be the case that this is where you get your Z stones from. I'm not entirely sure myself how Z stones work, whether you have to find this, because I'm pretty sure you can get multiple of each Z stone to give to different Pokemon. Apparently that's how it works. I really don't know at the moment though. I've seen different sort of reports online, I suppose you could say. Different people were saying, oh, they do different things and this is how you use them, but it could be also the fact that you need to actually learn the different moves. There's different Z moves. For example, we've seen the 4 trial captains on Akala Island use their specific type Z moves. They've done the dance for it, so maybe you actually have to learn the dance to be able to use the Z move. And of course, maybe Ilima teaches us the normal type dance, for example, when it carries on like that, and we can learn it as we go. Each trial captain could show it to us, and maybe Plumeria and Guzma, after we defeat them, sort of, they sort out their ways and they say, yeah, okay, maybe I'll do it, okay, cool. But then the trouble with that is, say that you have a psychic type Pokemon that you really love, and the very last kahuna you battle is the psychic type kahuna, and that's where you learn that Z move from, or the dance from. That means you can't use Z moves on psychic type Pokemon until right at the end of the game, which sort of unbalances the game, because then if you want to do a full psychic type run, you can't, well, you can, but it'd be a lot harder than if you were to do a pure normal type run, because you don't get the Z move until much later on in the game. So that's the only thing that makes me believe they won't be related to teaching them, and you'll be able to find them as you go, and you won't have to battle particular typed trainers to get there. But that's just my own thought. Let me know what you think down below about this, guys. How many trial captains do you think there are in general? We've got 18 types, so maybe 4 off the Kahunas, 2 off the Plumeria and Guzma, so we're going to assume we're going to get 12 in total, which would be pretty cool. You know, it's 50% more than usually for gyms, so it'd be really funky to see how they do it. So let me know what you think of that down below, about how many trials we're going to get in total, and let me know how you, or what you think about how the Z moves and the Z dances, I'll call them, are going to be distributed in the game. Would you have to learn them as we go, or is it just a case of once you get a Z ring, you can use whatever you want as long as you've got a corresponding Z crystal? Let me know what you think down below. But for now, this is going to be it for me for today, so I shall be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.